Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 2015's Bone Tomahawk, and we'll talk a little bit about its RLJE Blu-ray Steelbook that came out not too long ago, and it's also Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway, so stick around to the end of the video for that, and for some channel updates. So first of all, this is actually a members review here on the channel. If you are a channel director like Frank Rodriguez and Kevin Kruger are, each and every single month you have your choice of a review that I will do here for you on the channel. And this month, Frank Rodriguez chose Bone Tomahawk, a little known western from back in 2015 that stars Kurt Russell, Lili Simmons, Patrick Wilson, and in an unbelievable performance, Matthew Fox, someone who I didn't think had this in him, and also a great Richard Jenkins performance, but you know, he always gives a great performance. He's just a very underappreciated actor. And this was pitched to me by so many different people, like my cousin Dennis, who you guys have seen here on the channel. He loves this movie. He's been telling me since about 2017 that I have to see this movie. You're a big Western fan. This is a movie for you. It's got a twist in it like From Dusk Till Dawn, which I think kind of overhyped this movie for me because, yes, there is a similar thing from Dusk Till Dawn that happens in this movie, but they're not hiding it as much as they are in From Dusk Till Dawn. The hints are there that this movie does make a turn when you get to the third act. But unlike From Dusk Till Dawn, it doesn't come out of nowhere, and it doesn't ruin the film. Like From Dusk Till Dawn, when the vampires show up towards the third act of that movie, it just doesn't work for me. That movie is almost completely, it's just different. It turns into a very different film, a film that I particularly don't really enjoy too much. I prefer the first half of that movie as we're building the tension, even though Tarantino is doing a pretty awful job acting, as he usually does, but I mean, he's my favorite director of all time, so he can be forgiven for that. And this movie, though, is a pretty straightforward Western, and it really captures the brutality of the Old West. It takes place in the 1890s. Kurt Russell plays the sheriff of a small town, and one day, a drifter wanders into town, played by David Arquette, who we see him and Sid Haig at the very beginning of this movie. One of the characters ends up getting brutally murdered, and the other guy has to drift into town, and he's just a complete and utter mess. But Kurt Russell's like, he's like, what are you doing here? What are you doing in our town? The deputy thought that there was something strange about him. He was burying some stuff in the dirt, so he gets the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, what are you doing here? And, a little bit of a tussle happens. He ends up shooting him in the leg. But, this is a good town.
Civilized towns. You look a man direct in the face when you talk to him.
And they're going to do everything by the book. So they want to get the doctor in there to take that bullet out. Unfortunately, the doctor's not available, so they get the doctor's assistant, his daughter, Mrs. O'Dwyer, who is played by Lili Simmons in this movie phenomenally. She is the wife of Patrick Wilson's character, Mr. O'Dwyer, in this film, who's banged up. He's got a leg injury, so she's been caring for him. So Kurt Russell takes her over there to get that bullet out, and as the night goes on, the sun sets, we wake up in the morning, and not only is she missing, not only is David Arquette's drifter missing, but the other deputy, Nick, is also missing, and a stable boy was murdered brutally. So they have to bring in basically the smartest guy in the town, a Native American. He looks at one of these bows, and he's like, oh, you don't know what you're in for with these guys.
They don't have a name.
What kind of tribe doesn't have a name?
One that doesn't have a language. Cave dwellers.
Basically, even all the Native Americans have shunned these guys, but of course, Kurt Russell, an honorable man. Patrick Wilson, despite having his leg all screwed up. Matthew Fox's character, he feels guilty about what happened. And Richard Jenkins are all going to serve a rescue party, and they are going to head out in the woods. They're going to rescue these three people no matter what. Even if they're going to die, they don't care. This is what you have to do. And from that point on, we get ourselves basically an Old West road trip movie, but it keeps that slow pace of a good old-time Western. The cinematography is phenomenal, which makes sense because the director Craig Zahler is also a cinematographer. That's what he did before he started directing movies. He directed this film, he directed Dragged Across Concrete and Brawl in Cell Block 99, so he really likes to capture that raw, gritty feel, and the Old West is perfect for that. A lot of Westerns like to show how fun the Old West was. It wasn't really until we got to Unforgiven where it was kind of like an anti-Western in a way, where it was really showing you that, the Old West, not the funnest place to be, and this movie captured that perfect. If you want to stop, you got to set up base, you got to put wire around it with bells to get notified that, hey, a fucking animal from the woods could come out and just eat you right now, or even somebody trying to rob you. You can't trust anybody. You have to be on your toes at all times. Like, that's just a terrible way to live. When I was watching this movie, I was just thinking, you know what? We are really, really lucky. I complain about reheating food. These guys have nothing to eat. There's a point in this movie where somebody has to hunt a snake and kill it, and then that's what they're having for dinner. I could not do that. I could never do that in a million years. So these people, this is when men were men and women were women, and they just were living to survive, and they captured that perfectly in this movie. Such a well-shot movie, like I was saying. I mean, there are certain shots like where we take the camera really far back, and we'll have a light source to the left of the screen and a light source to the bottom right of the screen, and it just looks so gorgeous, this movie. Which, you know, I'm not going to do a full-blown Blu-ray review, but this Blu-ray is pretty damn good. I mean, the Steelbook is really nice. I actually really am glad that I picked up the Steelbook. And you come inside, and it's a Blu-ray and DVD combo because it's not a 4K Blu-ray, so they gave us the DVD here as well, which is pretty cool. I appreciate them doing that. It's the same thing on the Blu-ray disc that's on the DVD disc, same exact extras. The extras are pretty good. There's nothing too crazy. The best extra on there is a making of this film, which is about 10 minutes long, so it's nothing too crazy, but you get some information there. There's a deleted scene, photo gallery, trailer, nothing too special, and that's mainly because this movie, when it first came out back in 2015, was a bomb. It had a very small shoestring budget of $1.8 million. They filmed this in 21 days in California. They basically only used 2 sets, and while watching the movie, you would not notice that at all. They just did a great job making this movie look as good as it possibly can. It really does look like the Old West. They really captured the colors too. You know, like there's just a lot of beiges, browns, greens, you know, very dusty looking movie. The only thing I could say about the cinematography that I didn't really love is I felt like it was just a little bit overexposed at times, but you know, that just wouldn't be my choice. There's still nothing wrong with it, but it's just something that I personally don't love in comparison to other Westerns. I just feel like we were trying to take too much color out, and then we were trying to overexpose it, and it just doesn't look correct. That only does happen at certain moments. The dark scenes all look really well. If they ever wanted to bring this movie to 4K Blu-ray, I think it would be a gorgeous looking 4K Blu-ray, but you know, it's only got a big cult following to this point. You know, this is the kind of movie that maybe will get picked up by like Arrow Video or Shout Factory down the line. I can see this being a Scream Factory release because it does have horror elements to it. Once we get to the third act, the imagery in this movie, the brutality that you see on the screen, it's pretty damn rough. I saw some stuff in this movie that I truly didn't expect from this film at all. I mean, the third act of this movie, it turns up the blood and gore and the nastiness up to like 8 or 9. I actually loved it. I really loved how the third act of this movie built up because it's still a slow burn Western leading up to a very thrilling third act. So you're really combining elements from different genres, whether it be from Westerns or it be from the horror genre or it be from the thriller genre, really balanced out perfectly while retaining that brutal tone and then the acting. Kurt Russell, one of our most underappreciated actors ever. I mean, this guy can dabble in so many different genres. He looks like he was born to play in Westerns with that big puffy mustache. We saw this in The Hateful Eight as well.
Music time's over.
I mean, he knows how to nail these Westerns down. And then, of course, this guy was a child actor. He's in a lot of John Carpenter movies like The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China. He's in Overboard. He's in Backdraft. He's in Tango and Cash. I mean, this guy has been acting religiously since the 1970s. The guy played Elvis. He just has such range, and he's by far the best actor in this movie. But like I was saying about Matthew Fox earlier in the review, I just didn't think this guy had that gear in him. If you've ever seen the show Lost, you wouldn't think that that guy could play this type of character. An overly arrogant gunslinger who really follows his own code, but he's also a stand-up guy. He's willing to stick his neck out for other people if he feels like that's the right thing to do. He knows he's the smartest guy in the room. He'll point it out to you every single chance he gets, but he's an honorable man, and I really appreciated the way he played his character. And then Patrick Wilson. Patrick Wilson took a little bit longer in this movie to win me over. I felt like in the first third or half of the movie, he was just overacting a little bit, and his acting just didn't compare to other actors like Kurt Russell or Matthew Fox in this movie, or even Lili Simmons. She kind of pops up in the first third of the movie, and then she kind of pops up again in the last third of the movie. She's kind of missing during the second part of the film, but when she does show up, her acting chops are shown all over the screen. But Patrick Wilson, it took him a while to win me over, but then once you notice the physicality of his performance, he spends a lot of this movie injured, and then by the time we get to the third act, he did win me over. I thought he did a great job in this movie. You know, it feels like a usual Patrick Wilson performance. It doesn't feel like he was bringing something different to the table, but he still did a pretty damn good job. It's just, when you're acting against some great performers in this movie, I mean, it might be a little bit easy to get overlooked. That's the same thing with Richard Jenkins. Richard Jenkins, no matter when he shows up, he's always good, and he was great in this movie as well. It's just, you know, he's just one of those guys you expect him to be good. When he pops up in a comedy like Step Brothers,
Is absolutely 150% your fault.
or he pops up in a little Best Picture winner called The Shape of Water, no matter what it is, he shows up, he gives a world-class performance, and he leaves. And, you know, he just kind of gets overlooked all the time. He does a great job in this film as well. It's just I felt like Kurt Russell, Lili Simmons, and Matthew Fox just stole this movie when it comes to actually acting performances. So I can go on, and I don't want to spoil this movie for anybody because this is one of those movies that I didn't have spoiled for me, and I'm really glad I didn't, because this is a kind of movie, if you can go in as blind as possible, I think you'll be more rewarded. Know what kind of movie you're going into. It is definitely a Western, almost horror film. It got its premiere at Fantastic Fest for that very reason, because they knew what kind of movie they had. It's a brutal, gritty type of movie, one that I really think you're going to enjoy, and if you're a Western fan, you absolutely have to see this one. And even if you're not a Western fan, if you're a horror fan, definitely check this one out. It's definitely a slow burn. If you're not used to those kinds of movies where it's like very slow paced, we spend a lot of time watching somebody just try and heal an injury. If you're not used to that from usual Westerns, you might not enjoy this movie, but if you are a fan of those types of films with a horror twist on it, I really do think that this is one that you should check out, and I can highly, highly recommend it. This one really did surprise me. I knew I was going to like it. Everyone who told me I was going to like it, you were not wrong. This is definitely one of those very underappreciated movies. Hopefully it gets more following as it goes on, because this really shouldn't have bombed at the box office. My best guess is it just didn't have good marketing at the time, mainly because it had a shoestring budget for a director who had never directed before. It makes all the sense in the world, but I really wish that more people would see this, because it's got some great acting performances in it, and it tells a great story. So how would I rate this film and its Blu-ray on a score of 1 to 10? I would still give this a really damn solid 8.5 out of 10. The film is better than the Blu-ray itself, but that's to be understood. But everything else on this, it's pretty damn solid. I would have liked some more extras, but because it's a regular Steelbook Blu-ray, and like I said, really nice Steelbook. I don't know if I showed you guys how good the artwork is on this, but you know, this orange on the front really does kind of pop. It's got like an almost glossy finish to it, even though the whole thing has like a matte finish to it. They really did a really nice job on this Steelbook. I really do appreciate what they did for it. I'm not the biggest Steelbook guy, but I can appreciate this one. So if you want to grab this film, I got it for 18 bucks off of Amazon. Felt like I stole it. Just wish this had a 4K release, and that's the only thing I can ask for. And maybe down the line, one of those studios like Arrow or Shout Factory will give us that 4K Blu-ray that this film really deserves. And guys, it's also Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video we do here on Friday, I'm going to ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you have to do is answer one of those in the comment section below. As long as you do that, you come back to Monday's video, I put your name on a magic wheel, I spin that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice, the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And I figured I'd ask you guys, we're talking Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell, like I was saying, one of the most underappreciated actors ever. Been acting since he was a child, still acting to this very day. The guy's played Santa Claus. He's done it all. Elvis and Santa Claus. How many actors can say that? Kurt Russell's done it. I want to know, what is your favorite Kurt Russell performance? Leave that answer in the comment section below. And then, what else did I want to ask you guys this week? I wanted to know what movie had a twist in it that blew your mind. Now, don't spoil the twist in the comment section. You know, we could talk about it, but for other people who haven't seen the movie, but what twist in a film just absolutely shocked you the first time you saw it? Let me know that. Those are the 2 questions for this week, so just don't forget to come back to Monday's video to see if you were the lucky winner. And for our channel members, if you want to join the channel membership tier, that could be friends of the channel, like our 2 producers, John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or our 2 channel directors, Kevin Kruger and Frank Rodriguez. If you want to join one of those 3 tiers, we try and do giveaways for our channel members, and this month we're going to be giving away Waterworld on 4K Blu-ray from Arrow Video. This is the collector's edition. I reviewed this here on the channel. This is actually mine. I'm not a big fan of this film, but I really did love what they did for this, and it's got a really nice 4K, so I'm going to be giving away this copy to one of our channel members for the month of December. So if you're a channel member, at the end of this month, we'll put your name on a magic wheel just like we do for the digital code giveaway. We'll spin it. The winner gets this bad boy shipped to them from me. And also for everybody here on the channel, we will eventually make this a channel member thing, but for this month, we're going to be watching Die Hard on December 23rd at 8 p.m. It'll be a watch-along, channel watch-along. We're going to watch one of the greatest Christmas films ever together, so make sure you guys pencil that in on the calendar. And everybody else, we really, really, really appreciate your support, and the best way to support this channel is just by simply liking the video, subscribing to the channel, getting out in those streets, and telling your friends about us. And then we will be seeing you around.